In Northern California lies one of the state's most infamous prisons. Pelican Bay, which first opened its doors in 1989 and is home to one of the state's most infamous housing units. The Security Housing Unit, better known as the SHU, is a 1,000-man isolation cell designed to break the spirit of even the harshest of inmates. However, on July 8, 2013, an almost 3-month hunger strike would begin involving some 30,000 inmates. The key figures who designed this hunger strike and who led the way were 4 gang leaders who were housed within the SHU. Todd Ashker, with ties to the Aryan Brotherhood, which he has denied, was the supposed creator of this hunger strike. Sitawa Jama, with ties to the Black Guerrilla family. Arturo Castellanos, a Fluencia 13 gang leader with ties to the Mexican Mafia. And Antonio Chuco Guillen, or Norteño, who is one of the supposed 3 generals of the Nuestra Familia.
Ashker spoke to his lawyers recently over a phone line from behind a glass wall. It's going to be hard to make out, but listen carefully.
Greetings. My name is Todd Ashker, and I am from the Pelican Bay State Prison Short Quarter Collective Human Rights Movement. I am a principal representative of all similarly situated prisoners subject to long-term solitary confinement. Our core demands are centered on A, an end to indefinite solitary confinement based on innocuous associational behavior and or confidential information intelligence from prisoners tortured to the point of serious mental illness and agreement to become state collaborator informants. Additionally, CDCR's SDG pilot program is not responsive to our demands. It continues to base indefinite solitary confinement on confidential information intelligence without any requirement for any formal charge being filed and adjudicated for due process using the California prison system's preponderance of the evidence standard.
It's not what you've done on the streets.
Hey, Mike.
The man in his holding cell outside of his pod is Todd Ashker. Ashker is in prison for murder.
I didn't even consciously know I was stabbing him because I was just trying to get, the guy just kept coming at me.
Todd Ashker, according to the Department of Corrections, is a member of a white racist gang, the Aryan Brotherhood. He was sent to the Pelican Bay SHU because he assaulted a guard and killed another inmate.
I killed the dude, right? But it was in self-defense.
Why'd you kill the guy?
The guy wanted me to give him some money and all this. He felt I owed him, right? And I didn't feel I owed him nothing.
So you killed him?
They said I stabbed him numerous times.
Assault a guard?
Yeah, a few assaults on the guards, possession of inmate weapons, assaults on inmates, things like that.
There is no question that many of the inmates in Pelican Bay SHU are violent, or that they are gang members.
What's going on, you guys? Welcome back. Another episode of Green Lit Gang TV. Much love, much appreciation. Thank you guys so much for checking out the channel. It means a lot that you are here. Really quick, before we jump into it, let's do the intros. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Thank you for taking the time to watch the video. Hope you enjoy it. If you do like it, go back, check out some other videos, check out some other content, and let me know what you think. Guys, if you're a regular subscriber, viewer, supporter of this channel, then you already know I attribute all the growth so far in 2025 to each and every one of you. I truly, truly appreciate it. I'm humbled by all of the success, the small amount of success that I've experienced so far with this channel. So again, thank you. Lastly, if you like what you see, if you like what you hear, hit the like button, smash the comment button, engage in some conversation, and smash the subscribe button. Let's go. All right, guys, what's going on? So today we're going to be talking about the Pelican Bay hunger strike in 2013, but that affected more than just inmates at Pelican Bay. But we're also going to be focusing mainly on Todd Ashker. Now, interesting with him, man, he's a very interesting human being, got a lot of layers to him. Really want to make sure I get this done right. We're going to be reading from a bio that he put up on an internet website. For getting a lot of our information off that, I want to be able to make sure I get his side out there. Because the interesting thing with Todd Ashker is, okay, the 3 other individuals he's involved with in the Pelican Bay hunger strike, those 3, their gang ties are kind of unquestioned. Todd Ashker has always maintained, I am not an associate, not a member, not a leader of the Aryan Brotherhood, right? These other 3, they are who they are. They are gang members. There's nothing really to say against that. Ronnie Dewberry or Sitawa Jama, he's Black Guerrilla family. Arturo Castellanos, unquestioned leader of Fluencia 13, Mexican Mafia. Antonio Chuco Guillen, Norteño, one of the generals of the Nuestra Familia, is like the top dog, man. These guys are the highest of the high level. And that's what brought so much media attention to this, is you have four individuals of four, two Hispanics, African-American, Caucasian, come together to start this hunger strike. And the power and influence they have, you can't really put it into words. So we're going to be reading from this bio that talks about, Todd Ashker talking about himself in the early years, getting into the CYA, the California Youth Authority, into adulthood, ultimately the murder charge at the new Folsom prison in Sacramento, into kind of the hunger strike. So we're going to start reading from this article first. My name is Todd Louis Ashker. I'm a 52-year-old state prisoner who's now spent a total of 36 plus years of my life in California's failure of a penal system. The following is a summary of my relevant life experience intended to bring my perspective to what is intended to be a focus on a personal subjection to 28 plus years of continuous forms of solitary confinement. The early years. I was born in July of 1963. The first 10 years of my life were in Denver, Colorado. My mom raised my younger sister and I largely on her own. When work was available, she worked long hours as a legal secretary, this including commuting to and from work, leaving us on our own from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. Talking about how he was on welfare, how mom did her best, instilling values, but they always lived off minimum of essentials. No extras of any kind. Clothes were basically from Goodwill and thrift stores. He goes on to say, I can't explain what prompted me to begin stealing the things that I thought any sister and I needed, but I recall the first time was at age 6. It was Easter morning, and I stole a coloring kit from a nearby store. My first arrest was at the age of 8 for shoplifting some toys. Moved around a lot, never staying in one place for more than a year. On average, living mostly in low-income apartments. I hated this. Just as I'd be getting settled in and forming some new friendships, we'd be on the move again. He also got into some fistfights at this age, too. The summer of 1973, we moved to California, initially living near San Diego, where I was able to participate in very few sports programs, and even one year having to steal most of the equipment required to participate in the sport because they could not afford such extras. Even still, after a year, I was not able to continue due to our inability to afford the basic costs of such. In 1975, we relocated to the San Francisco Bay Area. This is where things really changed for Todd. The ages of 13 to 17, I was in and out of juvenile facilities for various property-type crimes and other minor offenses, fortunately never causing any physical harm to anyone, and that's important. He definitely makes that very clear in this. The last school year that I completed was 7th grade up to this point. I was always an A- student. I did just manage to pass the GED a few months prior to my 18th birthday, just before paroling from the California Youth Authority in 1981. I thought a lot about the cause of screwing up my youth, and can't put my finger on it. I always seem to have poor impulse control and lack of self-discipline. The bottom line is, I blame no one. I was given many great opportunities, and I'm responsible for passing them up. And I think that's so important to read, because you do not always come across that. Even for me, making these videos, when you read court documents, when you read sentencing hearings, when you read after victims speak out and the defendant is given a chance to speak before he's sent away, a lot of times, man, people do not take any accountability, and Todd absolutely does right here. Adulthood. Soon after turning 18, I was arrested for a burglary. The jobs I had been working, industrial, laundry, painting, sheetrocking, ended, and I needed money to support my pregnant girlfriend and I. I pled guilty and served close to 9 months in the county jail with a suspended prison sentence. During that time, my girlfriend got an abortion against my wishes while I was in jail. Once out, I only managed to stay out for about 70 days before being nabbed for another burglary, a few days prior to my 19th birthday. This was 1982. The result being 26 months inside, the bulk of which was spent at Duell Vocational Institution, DVI, located near Tracy. It's a very famous prison, wherein I was in general population learning auto body and paint trade and working in the cell blocks as a tier tender. It was a DVI where I got my tattoo work done. I was 19 to 20 years old at the time and a rebel at heart, and the ink I got was reflective of this view, as well as representing pride in my race and culture. This is common practice for many young prisoners of all races in the California prison system, to get tattoos symbolizing pride in one's race and culture. This is important. I've never been party to any type of neo-Nazi groups, period. What bugged me about the 1982 burglary charge was the fact that I had no part in it. I'd been working and doing side jobs, painting and sheetrocking. At one point, the court offered me a deal: plead guilty and do 13 months. I couldn't plead guilty to something I'd not done. I went to trial and lost. I paroled from DVI on August 31st, 1984. So when he lost that trial, he ended up getting double the amount of time, 26 months. With a poor attitude behind having spent 26 months in prison for a crime I didn't commit and no type of support system, I spent my time partying and acting a fool. On August 2nd, 1984, I was arrested for burglary again, pled guilty in December of 84, and received a 5-year term in prison. I will say this, when you read the lines of partying, acting a fool, burglary and all that, I think one thing Todd might not mention is there was some drug use in that. Again, speculation on my part, could be wrong, but I'm going to say drugs definitely played a part in all of this. Folsom State Prison, February 1985. I landed at Folsom State Prison to begin serving my 6-year term. I was 21 years old in good health with a strong spirit. My goal was to take things in stride, one day at a time, and make the best of a dim situation. I'd landed at Folsom during the bloodiest, most violent time period of its entire history. And during the first 2 months, we never left our cells and were fed 2 small sack lunches a day. The lockdown was behind an ongoing dispute between Africans and Hispanics. Excuse me. After 2 months, they'd unlock 1 tier at a time for a hot meal and a shower every 3rd day, and every time madness would jump off. By October 85, the dispute had been squashed and the general population was wide open. August of 1986, I was put in the whole Folsom Security Housing Unit behind a minor misunderstanding my cellmate and I had with some staff. A month later, I was charged with assaulting another prisoner in the SHU, resulting in a determinate SHU term, plus 3 years added to my sentence when I pled guilty in court to possession of a weapon, in exchange for dismissal of the assault charge. This is how he talks about the decades of state-sanctioned torture. I've now spent nearly 29 years in solitary confinement. My original 6-year term was increased to 21 years to life, and I've been personally subject to and/or I've witnessed almost every form of torturous abuse imaginable. New Folsom. New Folsom, California State Prison, Sacramento, opened in late 86 at the same time as Tehachapi, and prisoners from the SHUs at Old Folsom and San Quentin were sent to the New Folsom's Tehachapi's SHU unit. The small concrete SHU yard in New Folsom were suddenly integrated. After years of segregated SHU yards, this happened at the same time CDCR administrators instituted the, quote, no warning shot policy, meaning the staff providing gun coverage in the cell blocks and yards were mandated to use deadly force via their high-power Ruger Mini-14 assault rifles in response to prison fights, regardless of type of fighting going on. A recipe for disaster was thereby systematically set in motion. I was sent to New Folsom SHU in December of 86. Within my first year there, I learned firsthand that prison staff are the real enemy, more corrupt and prone to dirty, illegal moves than any convicted felons I'd done time with. By prison staff, I am referring to, quote, all prison staff, from the top to the bottom. I'm talking about custody, medical, and free staff, like plumbers, electricians, etc. The staff mentality was, quote, us against them. I will say in this case, the whole us against them, can't really blame him for that. Not condoning the torturous things that they were doing to prisoners. But again, you can understand why this stuff happens. It's just a breeding ground, man, for violence, prison as a whole. We talk about that now. We say that in all my videos when people are getting killed. If not just inmates, if you're a staff member, nurse, like they said, the free ones that go in there, plumbers, electricians, administrators, whatever, counselors, you are at risk for violence. Excuse me. Between January and July of 87, New Folsom staff began operating like a gang of thugs, indoctrinating their first staff against prisoner mentality. It was common practice for staff to deny prisoners or issue use of food as well as yard time. Prisoners often responded in the only ways they knew how to, by papering up their cell windows in order to force group cell extractions of the entire tier. That's crazy. It says in June of 87, staff encouraged the Africans to attack the whites on the yards and vice versa. That's crazy. Fast forwards to his homicide charge. On May 22nd, 1987, I attended a New Folsom SHU committee hearing at which I was noted that I had, quote, no gang affiliation, and they recommended any release to the general population prison, July of 87, so long as I remained disciplinary free in the interim. The problem was a guy who had fabricated a beef with me in his own mind had challenged me to, quote, a fist fight to settle the matter, and I had to accept. I had no choice. It was that or ask for PC, protective custody, which I'd have never, ever done. This person arranged for me to get the tier tender job for our section. At the time, the control booth staff would electronically release prisoners for a shower, 1 cell at a time. While the tier tender was out cleaning the tier on May 25th, 1987, I entered the guy's cell for our prearranged fist fight. As I did so, his cellmate, placed his mattress over the door opening in order to block the control booth's guard view. The theory for this was that it would prevent the 3 guards manning the booth for showers from shooting blindly into the cell while we fought. As I entered the cell, the guy swings at me with an 8-inch knife. We fought over it as 2 guards fired a total of 3 rifle shots through the mattress. The guy ended up stabbed and took a mini 14 bullet in his shoulder. He died an hour later at the outside hospital, and I was subsequently charged with murder. Excuse me. Okay, so what's important to note about this? That is Todd's side. Again, that's why I want to tell this. On the opposite side, right? On the police side, the prison side, they said Todd did this for the benefit of like the Aryan Brotherhood. Like it was a hit that came down from the Aryan Brotherhood for Todd to take out on this inmate. So I just want to make sure I make that clear. That is the other side of this story. So Todd's saying, hey, it's a prearranged fist fight. This guy pulled out a knife, didn't know he was going to do it, and I had to defend myself. You see in the interview there on the 60 Minutes that he basically says, I didn't even know I was stabbing the guy. I didn't even realize I was doing it. I was just trying to defend myself. I look up and he's dead. All right. Now, fast forward, while Todd is on trial during 1990s, he's on trial for this murder. All right. During a side hearing, during a break in the case and all this, Todd's lawyer is in a side room with another inmate. Another white inmate proceeds to stab Todd's lawyer in the neck, okay? And at first, you're like, okay, well, Todd didn't do it. Well, no. What ended up happening was the people that were looking at Todd as the villain, as the bad guy, as this white supremacist part of the Aryan Brotherhood, they said he did this because it would be viewed as a win. He was trying to get a mistrial, okay? Well, the lawyer, they were hoping that, okay, the lawyer either gets killed or gets seriously injured enough where he's going to take himself off the case because he's scared. Well, the lawyer didn't do that and proceeded with the case. Todd ends up being found guilty, and that's how he ends up to where he's at today, even after all these years, all right? Well, Todd was like, nope, that's not what happened, but I'm just giving you both sides of this. And I do think it's interesting that his lawyer gets stabbed in the neck. I feel like a guy of Todd Ashker's stature, if he's on trial for his life, this other white inmate, unless he's just, insane or out of his mind, is not going to stab Todd Ashker's lawyer if Todd Ashker didn't want him to. But again, speculation, all right? But he ends up being convicted of murder, never getting out. Now he's been in this security housing unit. He's got assaults on staff, assaults on other inmates. And that leads to this, over time, basically these guys saying, hey, we have 0 rights. We're being tortured mentally, for the most part, and physically as well, by being denied certain prisoner rights, like he said, certain food privileges, certain yard time, shower time, sensory deprivation, all that stuff. That leads us to this summer of 2013, where on July 8th of 2013, some almost 30,000 inmates would participate in a hunger strike. Okay, it lasted until September 5th, where use of force feeding was going to be probably, talked about, but there was pressure. There was a lot of pressure on the CDCR to make certain changes. And they did end up winning. These inmates, these 4 inmates, who along with 29,000, 30,000 other inmates, did bring about some change. It doesn't mean that sensory deprivation, that solitary confinement has ended. It absolutely hasn't. That prisoner abuse has ended. It absolutely hasn't. But this did force change. And the last note I will make, Todd Ashker actually did win a lawsuit in the 90s against the California Department of Corrections. He won like almost $250,000. He got an injury in the shoulder, got like shot in the shoulder, hurt in the shoulder. It got infected, and basically like an abscess, like it burst, and then they finally treated it, but he had serious medical condition. He basically said they refused doctor treatment on him for weeks, and he did end up winning this money. So what I'm going to leave you with is you kind of can draw your own conclusions about what I told you about this story. I'm really glad I told Todd Ashker's point of view, because I didn't want to, I didn't really want anybody to tell me that, oh, you didn't tell his point of view. You just read from the court paperwork and you took what the media said. No, majority of this was Todd's own words, okay? But I still want to know what you guys think below. Really, please, don't be afraid. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you guys think. And until next time, you already know what it is. Peace.